2, 1. Hi guys. Okay, welcome Judith Manzour to Storytime with Candice.
Hi, thanks.
For everyone who doesn't know, Judith is the owner and president of Judith Interiors, as well as the in-house designer for ACG.
Oh, thank you.
Yes?
I am. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Thank you. So I first met Judith because she was my camp counselor on our Israel trip. Which is, it's special.
Counselor.
I like to call you my camp counselor.
That's
because you had, like, responsibilities. Like, it looked like you were trying hard.
I did.
Whereas I was not.
And I did. So thank you so much for noticing.
Yeah. I think I picture you once even, like, had a clipboard in your hand.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, I wasn't doing that.
Yeah.
So you were a counselor. Like, you had a responsibility that I did not have.
Thank you for noticing. Yes,
Yeah.
I did.
Why were you a counselor? Can you tell me?
I had done that trip the year before you.
Okay.
And I fell in love with it, which is like wild in and of itself. And then I decided that I wanted to be really involved, and one of the ways that I could stay involved was to do it again, but as a counselor.
Right.
And so I did have responsibilities. I was doing like extra stuff, but I was also going through the same thing you were. So I was like doing the whole thing over again.
Yeah.
Which I
doing
wanted
the work.
to do.
Like
Yes.
doing the work. So
Yes.
the trip is like, so I took it, I'll tell you why I took it.
Mm-hmm.
I took it because I don't like being ignorant about things.
Uh-huh.
I don't like that I didn't know about certain aspects about Judaism, and it was bothering me that I didn't know.
Uh-huh.
Not that I knew that I wanted to be more religious or more Jewish or whatever, but it was bothering me that I didn't know some things.
You wanted to learn.
I wanted to learn.
You wanted to grow in your knowledge.
Yeah, and like people around me when I told them I was going on this trip were like, you're gonna get religious, you're gonna get this, you're gonna get that. And I was like, honestly, I have yet to be suckered into anything or like sucked into something that I didn't want to do.
Yes.
So
I really relate to that. It's
yeah.
funny. I tell people all the time when I talk about this trip, I actually preface it by saying like, because I talk a lot. I mean, you know that.
Yeah.
I mean,
I like it. I like it.
We bond over that.
Yeah, it's fun.
So I like to preface things. I just really want people to understand me, which is like a flaw of mine, but whatever. So I always preface.
It's not a flaw. It's something that we want. I want the same thing.
It is, but it's. I mean, as long as you know, it's not always possible. So
right.
I can only do so much.
Yes,
but
that's true.
I preface it by saying that I'm not a huge fan of like planned trips, especially to Israel, like organized trips. Basically, I've never done. I'm 30. I've never done birthright.
You did it?
No.
Interesting.
I mean, it's because I went a few times. I went on March of Living. I was like, if I'm going to go to Israel,
It probably wouldn't give you value.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, if
wouldn't
I'm going to
give
take time out of my life to do something like that, I'd rather do it on my own terms.
Sure.
But this trip, I actually had been asked to go on it the year before I really did. Okay. I was like, no, I'm not into it. And then the following year, something happened. I don't know what happened. And the same person that approached me was like, do you want to go on it this year? And I was like, yes. And I kind of went in with no expectations at all, which I know everybody says that before they go on a trip, but I went in with no expectations. I do have like a more religious background because I went to private school.
You do.
I've had Jewish studies my whole life.
Right. I was a public school girl, so I don't have that.
But still, I always said, because everyone's like, oh, you went to ULA, so you're religious? And I'm like,
right.
No, not at all, actually. But I always
But
said,
like compared to me, yes.
Yes,
for example.
but maybe like it was just a few things before my trip.
Okay.
It's very hard for me to be influenced, inspired, motivated. Life-changing moments don't very rarely happen for me. Like,
okay.
You can imagine 12 years of private school, how many rabbis I've heard speak, how many Holocaust survivors, how many teachers, it's obviously a very inspiring environment if you're open to it.
But you still weren't religious after doing all this stuff.
Traditional always. Because
yes, we're
my
traditional.
Parents raised me like that.
Yeah.
But but it's funny because my sisters have different experiences. Like some of them became more observant over time. Some of them, but this trip, I don't know if it's because I didn't have any expectations. I don't know if it's because of the timing of my life, which
it's probably most likely that.
Yes.
It's the timing.
But this trip probably was the most life-changing thing that I've experienced to this day.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Your trip that you did without being the counselor.
Yes.
Yes.
But both together.
Together, they were both great.
Yes.
That's very cool. That's cool. It wasn't life-changing for me, but it's still kind of, I didn't really have expectations of it. I was looking, like I told you, to like learn more.
Yes.
So asking all of the questions, which I got to ask, was fun for me. Like that was what I wanted out of it. I wanted like the answers that I asked, and people were kind of like, maybe those are inappropriate questions, Candice. And I was like, well, this is like what I wanted to do, and like this is what I wanted to know.
Yes.
Like, I don't think the rabbi thought that they were wrong. He was just like, oh, it's shocking that maybe you said it out loud.
Yeah, no.
You know,
I
maybe
think that's exactly the purpose of the trip. Is it doesn't have to be life-changing for everyone. It needs to serve you in the way that you need it, which it did. You know?
It did, exactly. And I also, like, life-changing in maybe a degree less than, I found people that I really resonated with, right? And I still talk to them, and we still have our fun group night out, and like that's really refreshing to have met like as adults.
Yes.
People on a trip that I don't hate. And for me, that's big. It's a big deal. I hate almost everyone.
Yes.
So that was huge, and that like I actually care about them today.
Yes.
Is big.
Yes.
That's huge. Like why?
Staying friends, being in touch, like finding people that you
like I care about their well-being.
Yes. As an adult, that's like a big deal.
That's hard. That's hard, especially for my personality.
I agree.
Because people love it or hate it. This is who I am. Same for you, kind of too.
Yes.
Like love it or hate it. This is who you are. You have opinions, you have thoughts, and you say them. You know, you're not like super annoyed or upset about them. You're just like, this is it.
Yeah. We like to share.
Yeah, and I like to share how I'm feeling. Like nobody has to care. I'm not asking for you to care. I'm just.
You want to say it.
I'm just gonna say it, and maybe and we are not dumb people.
No.
So somebody could get something from it. So on the trip, we went to a like women's. It's not a shelter, but it's like a learning center.
Oh, Neve? Okay, yes. It's It's kind of like a seminary.
Right, it's the girl version of a seminary.
Of a yeshiva.
Yes. Of a yeshiva. Sorry, yes, okay.
Yes, you got it right the first time, sorry.
No, that's fine. It's usually how it happens. Okay, so we get there, and you are really excited to be there. I don't know if you remember this at all, but you're very excited, and you're like, this is going to be, we're in the bus, and it's like all the women, and you're like, I'm so excited you're going to come here. I had such a life-changing, moment for me here. If any of you, after this day trip, know that you want to study here, please let me know, and I will help you, and I'm so excited for it.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like,
because I love the teachers there. They're like amazing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and you did mention that.
Okay.
And so I was like, oh, okay, wow. And then we get in there, and I'm like, oh my God, look at all of the women, like just everywhere. That's cool. All right. For me, this is very different. You have to understand, like, I went to El Rodeo, I went to Beverly, and then I went to Vegas. Like, I have none of this in my repertoire of memories.
Yes.
So we're walking through the halls, and we get to the classroom that we're all sitting in. Everybody, like, all the girls are having feelings. Everyone's having thoughts that are so apart from where we are physically. I remember somebody in the back of the room is crying because of a boy, and most people were like half asleep because the night before we were out and it was like a mess, all of that. I remember specifically I was sitting with Lishai.
Okay.
And Lishai and I are like at this point like 4 or 5 days into like meeting.
Okay.
And I know that I like her.
Yeah.
Like she's
Shout out to Lishai.
Yeah, shout out. She's kind of like horrible in the right way.
Yeah.
Right? Like absolutely like a bitch, but in the correct way.
The way that we love.
The way that we love. The way that I will attach
the way that
myself.
we are.
Right. So she's sitting next to me and I'm like super comfortable with that. I'm like, okay, good. Not one of these like people who like you die for this.
Yes.
Because I don't die for this. And I actually was, that's a different subject, on the girls who die for it. It made me very nervous on the trip to watch them die for it. I kind of just wanted to be like, no, stop, come back, do not go for this.
But see, that's why like everybody has to go for themselves. And
Yes.
What am I feeling? What am I experiencing? What is this doing for me?
Right.
Yes, continue.
So there are like a series of like, I don't know, 3 or 4 teachers that come in and we're staying in place. It's like 5th grade and it's amazing. Up until the point where like teachers come in and start speaking. Yeah. Because I realized like, oh my God, no, I can't. Like there was like one who had a story that I enjoyed.
Yes.
That was nice. I love a good story.
Yeah.
Especially one like we can't confirm that actually happened. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Like tell me about this random rabbi that was here like 3,000 years ago and his wife did that and we have no idea, but like this is a story. I love those. I live for them. It's so much excited to be Jewish because all these fun stories.
Yeah, such fun stories.
It's like if you like Disney growing up, like you probably love like knowing all the Jewish stories. It's a fun time.
They do make it fun for you when
Yeah.
you're younger.
Right?
Sure.
And like people are named like Mordechai. Like nothing's wrong with that. It's fun. There's one teacher that comes in, and you, before the teacher comes in, you're like, guys, everyone, try to stay awake. This is a
Candice, where are you going? Because I do not remember.
This is a great teacher. I love her, and I'm like, okay, wow, I'm so excited. You're like hyping her
Was
up.
it Raquel?
I have no idea her name.
She had an accent. She's from
She had an accent.
Argentina or Venezuela. Or something.
She comes in, and she's like she told us she's like a Zumba teacher also.
Yes, I do love her.
And I found her to be one of the more offensive people that I've
Really?
ever met on the trip.
Oh my God. Okay.
And I don't know if you remember, but like I got into like an argument with her, and mostly I say this because like nobody really remembers us being in this classroom because everyone's so exhausted.
Yes.
Everyone's tired.
Yes.
Everyone like people are crying in the background, like in the back row, like putting their head down and just like crying, and I'm like, that's just not where I am.
Yeah.
I am riveted by all the stories, so I'm awake. Lishai is sitting next to me, like we're just paying attention, and people are like nodding in and out. But you brought up that this teacher is somebody that you like, and I'm like, okay, cool. She comes in, and for the life of me, I cannot get. And I know you, and I know like your political views.
Yeah.
So I know like her political views are not your own, and you probably didn't like it either, or you don't like it. But I couldn't get off of her political like thoughts, and it made me wildly uncomfortable. And she is very much like a fan of like socialism, and the way
what
she was
saying?
She was saying about how like people who are really rich should really like, for example, like doctors shouldn't take a higher cut of pay than like a janitor, and that's what's really like the distribution of wealth is wrong in our
way.
Yeah. And I was getting really like, no way that you're saying this. I was freaking out. And I brought up like Ariana Grande, and I was like, tell me something. Like, you're telling me she's a fantastic singer. You're telling me like she goes on tour and she does all, I don't even know why I brought her up. I don't even listen to Ariana Grande. I don't even know why. She just like pops into my head.
I do not remember her saying any of this.
And I was like, so you're telling me like she shouldn't make more money than like, I don't know, a random other person who's like working in the show, like as a sound person?
Yeah.
Because that's not fair? And she's like, yeah, it's not fair. You know how many, and then she kept going, you know how many like poor people there are? And I was like, yeah, no, I understand. We have to do something about that.
Yeah.
Yes, 100%. But we also can't like have people who are like wildly talented in, you know, arts or like even a doctor be the same like salaried person as, you know, someone who isn't as educated. It doesn't make sense. And I was trying to get like, trying to prove my point, like I can't believe this is happening. And Lishai next to me is like, Candice, and I was like, no. I was like, no, I don't want to. And she's like, just stop talking. And I'm like, no, I will not. I can't do it. So Lishai like literally the whole time was telling me to shut up under her breath. And at one point I just like let it go.
Yeah.
But it was funny, and it was I still think about that classroom today, and I wonder like, I definitely needed to hear it because I believe in that stuff. Like, you need to hear things when it happens to you. There's a reason. And I'm not a confrontational person, but I do like to have conversations. I think it's fun. I think it's good to like be around people who don't have the same views as you, because you learn something at the end of the day. It doesn't have to become your own, but you learn something. That day I learned how somebody else views the world.
For sure.
And that's a big deal.
Did she not share anything else that was like of substance aside from like political views that she had?
She talks a lot about how she is a Zumba teacher and the way that she helps those less fortunate.
Okay.
Which I thought was beautiful.
Okay, is that okay?
Yes.
I mean, from what I remember of her, and I randomly will see clips of her on Instagram and Facebook because I know she has her own page.
Don't send it.
She's so that's what I'm saying. It's funny because she's very well known for her like quick short stories that are like super, like she just gives like metaphorical like like short stories that are like boom, like very powerful. I think she just got. I think she knew the group that was coming in. And, like Americans. Like
I think that she pushed that. And I was like,
It's funny actually because I think that's where like I kind of clashed with like some of the people on the trip.
Yeah,
like
specifically in New York or LA.
Just people on the trip who like not even clashed in a bad way. Like you and I are very similar.
Yes. We have different views on some things.
We have different views on some things, which is fine.
Healthy.
But it's funny for me because that's how my second trip as a counselor was a learning experience for me, because I know where I stand and I know how I feel about certain things. Like when it comes to religion, forget about politics. Right. We'll take that out. But with my religion, which is obviously a very personal thing, but it's been such a beautiful part of my life, like piece of my life, and I've wanted to share and like express the beauty in it with people, to people, which I find has been very difficult because everyone's in a different place.
I'll tell you something. It is difficult because everybody has a different experience with people who are, let's say, more religious. And everybody has a story about how that hurts or connects them to it.
Yes.
And if you're not like careful and you hit somebody at the wrong time in their life, when they hear it, then it changes. God, that's so I was on a date with this guy, and he told me like halfway through that I'm not Jewish enough. This is years ago, before this trip or whatever, and I was young. And it was a disgusting thing to say. And I shouted off a name of like a religious girl I know, and I was like, you should date her. Like, you know, just something super immature because I was so fucking over it.
Yeah.
And like, you don't say that to people, because I also like I went to Sinai Hebrew school, and I went to El Rodeo and Beverly. So like my idea of Judaism was based entirely, like, for most of my childhood, in traditional values.
Yes.
And what I thought was conservative.
Yes.
And I had never been ashamed of any of my Jewishness. Like nothing. I loved it. I loved other Jews. I thought it was all great. Everything was good. And then I realized that within Judaism, people are starting to like compare.
Yes.
And I always say this. It's on my Instagram too. Like, comparison is a thief of joy. And it's something that I try to practice all the time, because
I love that.
It's just not healthy to compare others, right?
Yeah.
And when he said this to me, and I'm like, I don't even know what to say to you.
Yeah.
I said, okay, well, that's fine. You should come with me date. I said our name, and I got an Uber and I left. And within, I think, 4 or 5 months from that date, I saw that he got married to another person. He has since divorced.
Oh.
So that's, that.
Well, that goes, I mean, I'm not going to even say anything there, but I will say.
But it's where people are at that certain time. Like, you are more religious than I am, and you would never say that to me.
I would never say that to you.
Never say that to me.
But that's where I want to like make this big clarification.
Okay,
so I have a few different friend groups, and some are more religious and some are way less, and my friends who aren't so religious, like, obviously they come from certain backgrounds and went to certain schools and they have certain upbringings, and that's fine, and their beliefs are beautiful and their lives are fine, but I've seen, and I can sense that they have this preconceived notion and this judgment towards people who are quote unquote more religious.
Yeah.
And then I have religious friends who have preconceived notions and judgments against people who are quote unquote less religious. I don't even like using the terms more or less religious. I really don't.
It's really unfair.
It's
not real. It's
not even that. It's just, it's unfortunate because our community and our friends and people in our world, they let other people, like people in the community, like not like rabbis, not like leaders, and I'm talking about like substantial ones. Yeah. They don't let those people be the spokesperson for what my like intention, my goal, my like dream is for people to like, which is why I always try to explain the trip and I always try to like give background.
It's a hard trip to kind of fully describe.
It is, but I just like to say, like, there is a basis, there's like a really simple basis for Judaism that I want people to understand. And first of all, we shouldn't allow other people to tell us what level we hold,
Well, no,
if we're
definitely not.
good enough, if we're not good enough, what we should and shouldn't do. Like,
Right.
who are you to tell me?
No.
That's number one. Number two, same with you. Like, I know you, and I know like the way. I feel like I know like the kind of way that you would want to live your life, and
Yeah.
I know that certain things would, if you were to learn them in a certain way, it would serve you so much better. So, for example, this is what I wanted to share with people. It's like 12 years of private Jewish school, and I didn't want to pick up any extra, like
Add-on
things.
Exactly.
Like I didn't want to observe any more than I was. I didn't want to practice any more than I was.
Okay.
Go on this trip. It's a 2-week trip.
Yes, it is.
It's a 2-week trip to Israel where I've been before.
Yeah.
Doing things I've done before.
Right. Nothing new in that too.
But what was new is I had a new rabbi who, okay, you are or aren't a fan. That's fine. That's not a problem. And I had a new environment.
Yeah.
I'm a Sephardic Jew, obviously.
Right.
I went to Ashkenaz school my whole life.
Oh, okay. Never thought about it that way.
There is a way of teaching and learning for Ashkenaz Jews when it comes to Judaism.
Okay.
That, it has really, the method is beneficial in a lot of ways, but obviously it wasn't for me.
Right. It didn't get you.
No, because it was, and I guess this is also how you have to teach kids, but it was very much like, these are the rules, these are why we keep them, very logical, very factual. If we don't, these are the types of things, but it was never like, you're gonna die, or you're gonna go to hell. It was never negative. But it was like,
these are the rules.
and
This is
listen,
what we do.
it was also in an environment where there were people who were very religious around me. So like in school, I was basically green, and like in outside of school,
So
I was
good
like
to me.
to my other friends, to my public school friends, I was so religious.
Yeah.
So, but I guess the crazy part is I never let that, like, it didn't affect me. I wasn't mad. I wasn't angry. Like, it was just,
Right.
it was what it was.
It was just a part of you.
Yeah.
That's exactly how I felt too.
Go on this trip, 2 weeks on this trip with amazing rabbis, amazing mentors, incredible speakers who again, I took with a grain of salt and whatever resonated.
And
Being in the most beautiful, holy, incredible environment.
agreed. Jerusalem is gorgeous.
And for the first time in 20-something years, I'm learning,
Something snapped.
guess what?
Something happened.
Even if you don't do anything, when you do one mitzvah or one thing to observe or practice, in God's eyes, that is incredible.
Yeah.
For me, I was like, oh, it was like a breakthrough moment. Like,
Yes.
oh my God.
Something snapped and you got
Like,
it. Something that all of school at ULA did not touch.
Exactly.
Right.
Like, I was like, wow, so one little thing, like, goes that long of a way? Like, oh my God, I can
And
do
for you,
so
that's
much
all
more.
you needed to hear.
That was all I needed to hear, and then it right away became, I mean, not right away, it took time. So when I say life-changing,
But you got to like pick and choose.
I did.
Dip
I
your
did.
toe in
But
the
that's
pool.
what it is.
But that's what.
And people don't know that.
That's what growing up is.
Yes.
That's what like learning from your
Yes.
environment is in
Yes.
all aspects. Like everything is
I
like
could
this.
have only comprehended that at the age of what, I was 25, 26. Like,
Right.
I needed to learn it then.
It had to happen at that point, and somebody who wasn't like maybe directly related to LA society needed to say it. Okay, so another thing on the trip that didn't happen for me was finding a man, a boy. I didn't get to hook up with
It
anyone on
makes
the
me
trip.
so sad that people like make it such a, oh my God, you're gonna find your husband on this trip.
I
But
know.
I guess like it's
I
not.
guess it's like the idea of like, and I didn't go into it with him, and I was like, oh my God, wouldn't that be
Yeah.
so cute that I meet
Yeah.
someone on the trip, and then I looked at all the men, and I was like, oh, okay, so I get to look disgusting on this trip, and I wouldn't care.
But I want you to know how
Which
much
was
better
nice.
that is. Like
It was so nice. It was so nice. There were girls, for example, who ended up like hooking up with guys on the trip, and their trip was vastly different than mine
but yeah.
because they were focused on something that it wasn't even on my radar. You know.
Yeah.
So I am grateful for that. That was nice.
Alone is so much better.
Okay.
Just because it's such a valuable experience, whether it's good or bad, it's
Yeah.
still valuable. And like, I think being selfish and being in the moment and
Doing
really,
you.
really focusing on you and what you're feeling and what you're experiencing is probably like
The best.
the best way to do
my next question for you.
Let's go.
I want to know, what are your red flags when you date?
Oh.
When you date somebody, what are red flags that appear and you're like, oh, immediate no? Everyone has a bunch. Like, I just recently saw a TikTok about this guy who was like, you know, if you want a girl to ghost you, have her pay for half her meal on the first date. And I was like, that's a good trick. That is a good trick.
That's a great, it
It is a good trick because I'll always say, hey, let me.
Oh, you do that?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, that's nice.
I always do that.
I don't even pretend to reach for my bag on
You
a first
don't.
date.
No. I used to when I was younger.
Okay.
And I've had guys, like, I've had guys who are really close to me who I love tell me, like, if you want them to, like, even respect you and, like, you know, appreciate you, maybe you should pretend and offer. Yeah. And I was like, you know,
It's
I
not
hear
you that
you,
know.
but I would never, and you guys can hate me, that's fine.
It's okay. So we
I
talk shit about
would
it.
never be okay with somebody who would ask me or be okay with me paying full or half
On the first date.
second, third date.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna pretend because I'm already starting this like lie and this like thing. Like
Yeah, you don't. You just real from the beginning.
like
Yeah.
And if it offends you, like we could talk about it. I'm okay with
It
that.
offends you. It probably like
If
there
it
are other
offends you,
things
then
that
we
I could
probably
say.
shouldn't be together.
Yeah, because other things that I'd say would probably be more offensive.
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
like
And like
you're
you and
weeding
I
it out. You're
cannot
weeding
be with sensitive people.
it out. No.
Like if my tone of voice or my statements that I make that are sometimes outrageous that I understand I'm sorry. If they offend you,
we can't be together.
Yeah, we can't be together.
We can't be
So,
together.
you know,
you
it's-
want to live in a house alone with me, and if you don't think
Yeah.
that this is like funny, and if you find it offensive, then we
Yeah.
can't make it. There's no way.
And very few people, I mean, get us, which is fine. But I'm just saying,
100%.
like I think me not pretending to reach for my wallet is a good start.
Yeah.
You know, because I'm just showing you, this is who I am. Like, sorry.
It is.
I
And it's not
expect
wrong.
you to.
It's not wrong.
I expect you to pay.
I do it because, like, genuinely, I'll tell you something. If I offer, I remember to offer more when I don't want to see this guy again.
Okay, that's a good one.
When I'm, like, nervous and I'm excited about this,
probably
I
wanna
forget that, like, oh, I should do that.
Yeah.
I'm, like, thinking about other things.
Okay. Makes
So the guys that I really do like, it leaves my head, and then the card is in the bill, and it's somebody's already taking it, and I'm like it's all moving so fast in my head.
Yeah.
So guys who I remember to offer, I'm like, if I never see this man again, like absolutely fine.
I also will say, I mean, I'm not going to start talking about what men should and shouldn't do, but I also will say I really do love a man and respect a man who can pay for the bill without like me seeing, me knowing. Like, don't make it awkward. Just be a freaking grown-ass man.
Right.
Give
Take
them-
care of it.
Yeah. Just take care of it.
It's sexy.
It is.
It's sexy.
It
is what
really
it is.
is.
It's
Like-
not. It's not that like what you're doing is like you're taking away a potentially awkward moment while we're having a good time.
You're thinking ahead. You're being proactive.
Yes.
You're being
And
a
that's
mature
all
adult.
sexy.
You're showing me that you can take like
That you can take care
you
of
can
me.
take care of me, even though
Yeah.
it's just a simple task.
100%.
And I will say, like, I mean, I lost
Well,
my train of
no.
thought.
Well, okay. When a man, okay, so it actually goes into one of my love languages.
Oh.
One of my love languages. Well, yeah.
What is it?
Okay,
Say it. I think it's the same as mine.
It's my first one.
Oh, okay.
Acts of service.
Acts of service. Acts of service and words of affirmation are my top two.
Oh wow.
So acts of service, it makes sense. It resonates with you and I.
It's my number
one
one.
too. If somebody is trying to help me
Yeah.
do something
Oh.
that you know that I don't want to do or
Oh.
get involved in, that it's going to make me upset or awkward or
Anything.
stressful,
Anything.
you will earn something in me that most people don't.
Oh, 100%.
It's
100%.
the equivalent of, for example, like you didn't need to, but you brought me coffee.
Yeah. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So nice. It was like I know it's a $4 coffee because I go get it every week. I know it's nothing.
For me,
It's a drop in but it elevates the situation so much that if a man came over one morning and was like, "Hey, like I'm here to pick you up," or wherever, brought me a coffee.
Yeah.
It's cheaper than flowers. It's not the money.
I know.
It's if you took something away from me that was like that I had to go do
Yeah.
and it was like annoying. It's nice.
I'll tell you,
like
a
the
man
bill.
could tell me, I'm the most beautiful thing in the world, I'm this, I'm that, he loves me, he will do anything. It goes through one ear, not the other. I mean, listen,
I'm
I
the worst
get-
affirmation person.
I
so for me
know,
it's
talk is cheap.
Yeah.
I will feel as though you really love me.
Yeah.
And I will feel like the most beautiful girl in the world
If
when
acts of
you
service
do
are done.
the things.
Yeah.
Do the things.
Right.
Act.
Yeah.
Show me through your actions
At dinner,
how
take
much
the
you
bill.
care about
Like,
me.
yeah, let it be an easy process.
It's just, I mean, that's a small little thing in there, but like, just be thoughtful. Be thoughtful and
Yeah.
like incorporate, like, we have to incorporate each other in each other's lives. Like, that's what acts of service is. Like,
it's a big
you know?
deal for me too.
Yeah.
So physical touch and quality time are my bottom.
really?
Like, I guess I don't need to be touched or be having like
No. Yeah.
time with another
Yeah.
human.
No, I mean,
Which for me, when I took the test, I understood. Like, I don't really like care to spend so much time with another person.
in
I
a relationship.
So I guess because as long as he's giving me acts of service
Yeah.
and words of affirmation,
You're good.
I'm secure.
Oh, that's
I
nice.
feel good about it.
By the way,
don't-
guys, notice how neither of us said gifts. Okay.
Oh yeah, no, gifts are my absolute
My
best.
lowest.
Yeah, it's
Same.
my lowest.
I don't care.
I don't care about gifts. This is the thing though,
Just
like,
be
because
a
I
good
can,
guy.
I can buy my own gifts.
Same.
You don't need to buy.
I
don't
can buy
me things.
myself flowers.
How'd you-
But again, we are where we need to be.
Yes.
Definitely would have been interesting if you and I were a little bit more prone. But I was not raised that way.
I wasn't raised that way
It's not
either.
in my blood. I don't
No.
know how to do it.
I was told it was wrong.
Yeah.
I was told it was
rude.
wrong and it's rude.
Yeah.
Be tabiat.
Yes.
It's not
Yes.
nice.
Yes.
Don't
I
do
know
that.
that.
And exactly.
Yeah.
And I was told like that. Those were real words that we
Yeah.
were
Yeah.
listening to
Yeah.
growing up.
Yeah.
And I get it and I like it, but it did do harm now in my dating life.
But also, Candice, I find tremendous peace. I mean, not that I think of this often, we don't really, but I find so much peace in knowing that, in believing that, like, we don't, like, it doesn't resonate with us. We don't want men like that.
Right,
We
yes.
would not be happy with men
Yeah,
like that.
no,
Like,
because at the end of the day, I have to, and I always think about this, because I'm like, oh, if somebody gets married, I'm like, would I be alone with this man in a house? No. I want nothing to do, actually, with that.
Yeah.
So immediately,
I did learn something.
I've been going to Kabbalah classes, and they did say something that, like, I really, I mean, I feel like I knew this, but they said it, and it just, like, clicked for me, and it was like, because they're really big on like tikkuns,
yes,
in
I
Kabbalah.
did the level 1 we talked about tikkun.
and they're saying like because your spouse is there to help you work on your tikkun, your kids are there to help you work on your tikkun, but some people, their journey is set in a way where they're going to tackle and tikkun, for people who don't know,
Right, I guess we should
is
say
like a life's challenge or life
meant
obstacle.
to be,
Yeah.
it's like what you're meant to
overcome
work through,
in life.
overcome. Yes.
Yeah, like some like you can have multiples. Some people's like my tikkun is with patience, and
Right.
I have crazy road rage. That's probably one of my tikkuns.
Well, the LA Marathon today,
Something
I'm
like
sure
that.
was
Yeah.
a problem, but yes.
So we were talking about how some people are meant to kind of work on a few of them prior to finding their partners.
Okay, yeah.
Because doing it with a partner would have been catastrophic.
Oh, interesting.
And so it's things that we need to go through alone. Some people, their journeys with their tikkuns are to be tackled with another, or through their child, or so.
Yeah.
So I just thought it was like a beautiful way of like viewing people's journeys and
I
like the
agree.
difference in like their paths, and it also just gave me like a little bit more of a push, because I've been on like a really crazy like self-help journey since probably 2018, since
Okay.
my first
Yeah,
trip.
you're just getting self-aware and
Yeah.
learning about yourself.
So it was
It's a
like,
fun
okay,
time.
extra motivation of like really, work on this stuff. Like work on it while you're alone, and while you have the luxury of like being selfish and
Yeah.
taking your time.
I think I might be a little too self-aware.
Yeah.
I think that I'm a little bit, and you might fall into
Same.
this thing too,
Same.
where men, especially like Persian men, find us just a tad intimidating. We might be a little scary. And I see it.
This would have been a good one for me and you to start with, because this is like
I see it. Yeah, I see it. I 100% understand. I can be a little intimidating to the wrong person.
To the wrong person.
To the wrong person, I could be intimidating. I'm also intimidating to women in the wrong way. To the wrong
Same.
girl, Like I could also be, that could be a harmful relationship, whether it's a girl or a guy. But I think that I'm gonna start looking at white guys for many reasons. I think white guys, I'll tell you something.
They definitely appreciate us a little bit more.
They think that we
I
are
think we're
exotic.
gonna get a lot of trouble from this conversation.
Why?
I don't know.
No,
But-
it's
but,
fine.
but
I'll tell you something. I think white guys find us to be exotic all the time.
yes.
Okay, whereas Persian men just think this is normal.
Uh-huh.
And it'd be cool if my entire life somebody thought that I was just like this stunning, unique woman.
I have a really
That's
insane
cool.
theory.
Okay.
I've shared it with a lot of people. So
Do it.
whoever's listening to this,
If you've heard this before, I apologize, but it's a really concrete theory
Do it.
that I've developed through experience, personal experience. I love a Persian man.
Yeah.
Love Persian guys.
They're
I'm,
hot.
I,
Sometimes
I,
they're hot.
I preface it by saying unfortunately, which is really mean, but
Yeah,
I
no,
am
yeah.
unfortunately only attracted to Persian men. For the most part, not always.
Yeah.
but anyways.
Majority of it for me too.
Yes.
Unfortunately.
And I've never even considered, dating
Outside of
outside
this.
of my culture and my
Yeah.
religion, but I have a few times, and I've learned that, and this again, I don't want to generalize, but I will say through experience, Persian men and women have preconceived notions about one another.
Yes, 100%. Which sucks.
Which
Yeah,
it
it
does
sucks.
suck, and it, whatever, it's just inevitable.
we think most Persian guys are X, Y, and Z, and we think most Persian girls are A,
X,
B,
Y,
and
Z.
C.
and it's fine. But it becomes a problem when we want to date each other.
Yeah, and we go into it with those.
We go into it with our preconceived notions.
Yeah, it's really
And
bad. It's
and
really bad.
depending on the man, I mean, there is not a thing I can say or do that is going to change your mind.
Yeah, that's true.
And
if they're set in their ways.
If they're set in their ways,
Yeah.
or if their beliefs are like super embedded in them, and I'm like sitting there, killing myself, trying to like tell
Get
you
this
like,
person to
yeah.
like me, when I'm not even sure that I like
It-
them. To be
that's a
honest.
whole other
Yeah.
thing that I'm gonna.
It's-
That's a whole other thing. But I'm sitting there trying to explain, like, this is who I am. This is what I like. And same with him. And listen, I'm sure there are things that I can't see past. So I get it.
Yeah.
But with a white guy, and not all of them, but with a white guy, like, they don't have any of that. So
No.
it's like a blank slate.
Yeah.
And I'm going in, and
They just think like
and
our
then I'm
eyebrows
like,
are nice.
Yeah.
And they're just like, wow, you have black hair. like, wow. Are your eyebrows always like that? Were you born like that?
incredible.
Yeah.
They're so impressed. They're so
For like the basic things.
The
for just
basic.
like being there.
Okay, I'm gonna tell you my story because
For even having hips, can I tell
Yeah.
you? For having like a shape.
Yeah.
They're just like, wow.
they also let me talk.
That's also lovely.
Yeah.
When they ask a question.
Yeah. They
I'm like,
care.
oh, yeah.
Or
Or do well in pretending that they
yeah. I mean, I went on a date with a white guy, and this was like a third or fourth date, and we were supposed to go somewhere, and we were gonna drink before we went, but we didn't have time to go get anything, so I packed just like a small little bag
Okay.
of like sparkling water, a flask of tequila, and like straws, cups, and a chaser. Okay. And I took it in like this little plastic bag, like really makeshift, like last minute, nothing crazy. This man acted like I brought, this white man, acted like I brought like a 12-course meal with a cashmere blanket and a basket that I wove myself with my bare hands. That's how he acted. And he was so appreciative and shocked and like amazed by my skills. Skills of what? I don't know.
I'm not sure either.
A Persian man would have been like, and again,
He
don't
would have
hate
been
me.
like, oh, where did you like why did
This
you
bitch,
bring
what kind of tequila did she bring? Why did she only bring one sparkling water?
Yeah.
What kind of plastic cups are these?
Yes.
And like,
Yeah.
ew, she brought in a plastic bag.
Like, you didn't think to bring like a
Yeah.
dessert? Because
Exactly.
they're expecting all of these things.
Exactly. Sorry, Persian boys. I'm
No,
I'm through a point right now.
This is not for everyone.
No,
I know
no.
a lot of Persian men who aren't like this.
Mhm,
A lot of them are married to wonderful people who like
Yeah.
deserved to find them.
Yeah.
You know, and it's great, and I like love that for them.
I mean, I will say, like, I'm very